So you ping me this morning on WhatsApp, which is our favorite means of communication, about automating our accounts receivable function within our business, which is currently something that I manage, which should have some automations behind it. But I also believe that you're always going to have a human. Like if you go look at any company, namely larger companies, but really any company, there's an accounting department,
Yeah.
and it's manned by humans. So even those companies and departments within those organizations, they have automations. Like they have automations that go out to customers and say, "Hey, pay this invoice. You're 5 days overdue. You're a month overdue. Whatever." But I guess my point is that you don't. It doesn't come with the same impact when it's a personal reach out, whether that's an email or a text or a call to your customer saying, "Hey, John, we're getting nowhere here. It's 30 days past due. Like, what's the issue? Are you just ignoring us, or did you send this off to your AP department and it's now lost in the shuffle with them? But like, I need you to go chase them. Like, you tell me what the information is, John." That's the point of AR that I was trying to make, of like, yeah, we can automate as much as we want. Our dispatch tool that houses all of our payments and invoices that haven't been paid, that already every 3 or 5 days, whatever the cadence is for us, automatically sends out reminders to the customers at whatever that email address. That's another thing. We may have the wrong email address loaded in the system, but we don't get kickback saying, "Hey, this email failed to deliver," or whatever. Even if it's a good email, you could be set up on spam. And John doesn't get House Call Pro emails because it just goes directly to his spam folder. So there's so many things that I can think about or think of that are you have to have some human intervention to go get outstanding invoices paid. I think probably 50% roughly of your AR money does get paid by the automations you have set up. So like what you mentioned earlier, if you have an outstanding bill and you get an automated message from whoever you bought from, whether that's Amazon or Padulas or Viking Dumpsters, they'll send you, "Hey Ted, invoice still overdue. Click to pay here." Like that's enough for you to go in and pay it. But even in their scenario, maybe their invoices aren't arriving to your inbox. Maybe it's going to your spam. You never see them, or you do see it. You're just deleting everyone because you think it's a mistake because you thought you already paid it. And you're like, "Oh, their system's just messed up." I do that all the time with my HVAC guy because his system is messed up. It's like, "Dude, I've already paid this. Paid it 6 months ago. We chatted about this." He's like, "Oh yeah, sorry. Disregard." It's like, well, automation can only take you so far. I love automation. I'd love to not have this function. And eventually, at the size of our company, wherever we get to, I won't be the guy. Like there will be somebody else that does it. But there also is a nice element of like me still being in the weeds of this business, like day in and day out, booking jobs, communicating with our field teams about, "Hey, I'm going to go collect payment on this because it's a corporate account." Like knowing all of that data for me sets me up for success to go more effectively chase AR than if I hired, somebody, a virtual assistant in the Philippines to just do that for us. Could they be effective? Sure. But I would still be asked a million questions from that VA on a daily basis of like, "Hey, I tried Joe Schmo, but he's unresponsive. Or this email seems to be kicking back, or, I'm not getting anywhere with blah, blah, blah." And I could jump in and be like, "Well, that's because you got to run it up the chain to this person in procurement."
If I had to pick a theme for 2024 for us, if I said what was kind of our underlying theme for 20, what was the big, hairy, audacious goal that we really chased? Our BHAG would be automation. Our BHAG would be bringing on a whole new platform. We have our CRM, but there's actually a lot of data, but it's the ability to consume all that data, synthesize it, make sense out of it, have reports out of it. But really automation is at the core of, I think, what you pushed on this very hard. When was that? 3 or 4 months ago, I think, is when you first raised that flag about let's look at go high level, because we need a tool that really, really a business intelligence tool that pulls in everything, sales, marketing, finance, operations, and just pulls all that data in. And aside from even just data, a lot of just the workflows, a lot of the processes we could do a better job of. So great job pushing that, because I think already it's proven to be a great tool. So that was my mindset this morning. I'm sitting there, I'm watching this one thread that you have going on with a customer about payment. I'm like, man, first of all, thank you for doing that all these years. 6.5 years, you've been our AR guy, which obviously you don't have to do. You could have found an assistant, or someone else probably could have done that, but I think you've done a great job staying on it. And I think the benefit of you doing it, obviously that's not sustainable long term as we really scale and grow the business. That won't be something that you will be able to do forever, despite what you probably would say. You probably shouldn't, because I know that there's a part of you that enjoys aspects of that I would look at, because we're just so different. I would look at and go, man, that would bore me to death. You're naturally good at it, and you enjoy some of those things. But I'm watching this exchange going, but how do we automate it to where he's not having to be in the weeds? How do we both get out of the minutia? There's still a lot of little things, areas where we're involved in that, when we get to, let's just even say 5 locations, 10 locations, when you get to a certain point, you really shouldn't. Even if you can, you shouldn't be doing some of those things, because it's taking your eye off of the strategic growth. And strategic is a word people love to throw around. What does that mean? For me, it's always meant really just, what is the table stake? What's the most important table stakes? For us, it's multi-locations. It's getting that next location, then that next location, that next. As an executive, when you're taking on more executive leadership at that point, it's all about, how do I, instead of getting in the weeds and running it, how do I make sure I've got the right people in place to run it for me? So I think that's where things really start to shift, is when you have a bunch of locations. Now your focus is all on, how do I make sure I've got the right people in place per location? And so the focus shifts to more of the training and development of that person, that manager, or maybe it's a regional manager overseeing those locations. So in that vein of automation, that's where I started thinking, we've got Go High Level. Is there a way to automate beyond what our current CRM does? Can we automate even better? Can we essentially take it and put it into a sequence and really customize it? Because obviously you could do that in Go High Level. Could we have it to where, after 3 days, or maybe 24 hours, that payment hasn't come through? Now the first email goes out. Maybe it's an email and a text message. And then after 3 more days, same thing happens again. After, let's say, 7 days, now you go email, text, and you get a reminder that pops up that says, call this person. So now you're doing multi-steps. That's more what I was sitting there thinking this morning, is how do we get to that place where it is totally taking you out of it, and not just you, but a future person, whoever is in that role. When we have that full-time person that is just chasing down AR, which is a sad thought, that's a little scary, but I can certainly see that day coming. But how do we get to that place so that they're even more efficient? Because obviously, the more you can automate, the more you can take away from someone having to manually do all these individual steps. Even if you go, yeah, but it only takes me a few minutes. I get it. But a few minutes times X amount of tasks per day adds up to a lot of wasted time that today we can automate. Like, forget even AI. Just being able to automate that task using a drip campaign or nurture campaign is huge. And it's things that we didn't have 5-10 years ago. So that's more what my thought process was. I totally get your point. There's a level of personalization that you can add that would be hard to replicate. I won't say impossible because of AI. I think you can, and you probably will see that very soon, if not already. Maybe we're just not aware of it. But I think you will start to see a level of personalization from AI that we're doing today, or you're doing today, that will be able to take over. But yeah, that's always my mindset today. And again, largely because I think you pushed, let's get something even a step above what we currently have with Go High Level, that pulls all the stuff together and really just gives us kind of this is kind of like when you go into your phone and you have your basic settings and there's that little button that says advanced settings. I would say that's what Go High Level is to a business, to a home service business, could be e-com, really just about anything would benefit. But I'm already seeing the value add from Go High Level, and we've only been on board with them now for not even a month, roughly about a month. So I can see where that would really be such a huge time savings. And again, the ability to pull in all that data, synthesize it, make sense out of it, build reports, disseminate those reports to the right stakeholders is a huge value add. And frankly, it reminds me of being back in the corporate world when you're in big companies, you have these tools that are very expensive, that as a small business, you really typically can't afford those same tools. So I think it's been, for me, it's been kind of exciting to see this get going again, because it reminds me of some of those tools I'm used to that are much bigger and more robust, but are more expensive.
Well, the one thing I'm sitting here thinking about is just the whole theme of automations in general. It's got me thinking, why did we even start? We've always thought about automations and really just how to innovate the company.
Yeah.
But I think my realization in the last 6 to 12 months has been more so around those two things, specifically because I've realized, not that I didn't before, but more like forefront of, front of mind thinking, like, this business is so low barrier to entry. Everybody's doing it, and it's popular on YouTube, and people are buying courses, and Joe Schmo is starting a junk removal company today because he's got a pickup truck, and more power to him. But the people that are going to stay in the industry, I think, are the people that are going to continue to innovate around the customer experience and the customer journey. And so
Mhm.
what I'm thinking about is like that's why that's what for me is what's pushed us to do some of the things we've done here recently. But like if you think about the companies that have been around just in the US for a really long time, like the banks and the manufacturing companies and the oil and gas companies, like these old dated companies, if you walk into their corporate headquarters or their offices, wherever they are, like it's going to feel very dated, I think. I think a lot of companies are obviously picking up on automation, right? Just the buzzword of automation, doing things here and there. But those companies, the difference is that they're so old, but the industry and the service or the product that they provide is very specialized, or like there's not a lot of people that do it. So when you walk in their office and you still see a fax machine sitting over there, you're like, they can get away with that because there isn't 15 million people also providing this service.
Yeah.
So if you want to buy energy from XYZ company, and they happen to still do stuff by paper and fax, like you just have to acquiesce to that because you need their energy and they're the only ones that have it. So do they have to, figure out how to innovate around the customer journey like we do in junk removal? Not necessarily. I'm sure they have marketing departments and people that, CEOs and C-suite people are all strategizing on that. But like, it's like, dude, we own the energy. We'll run this business however we want. It's like the people that still operate with IBM mainframes. Like they're so like the banks, like they're so big and there's so much data on it. It's like, what's the use? Like, I don't want to migrate all this crap or wherever it goes today because they already have you as a customer and millions of others. It's like, nobody else is coming in here going to be as big as Bank of America.
Yeah.
Like, we'll just keep doing what we do in junk removal. Like, dude, if we're not doing something different from the next guy, like you booked with us and automatically got a booking notification and my smiling face and a text message from us that said, "Hey, welcome to Junk Raider. Glad you signed up or glad you scheduled with us. We'll see you tomorrow at 9. If there's anything you need between now and then, I own this company. Reach out directly. This is my personal cell. I'd love to get you taken care of." If you're not doing something like that in junk removal, because certainly the next chuck and a truck guy isn't doing it. But if you're not doing it, then you're falling into that same thread of just everybody else that picks up junk. And most customers are just looking for the cheapest price and somebody that can come out relatively quickly to get it done. But if they call you and you answer on the first ring and you're friendly and they get all these automation stuff behind it, that's like, this company's innovative and cool. They got a nice brand. Maybe they click on a YouTube video or something and they see, oh, they got a YouTube channel with all these like cool day in the life. Let me go down this rabbit hole, just like we all do with social media. We get caught up in these videos. We're like, oh, that's cool. Well, now it becomes a brand thing. Now they know Junk Raider. It's like, I'll stick with them for my appointment tomorrow at 9. These are cool guys. I trust them. Like, I feel comfortable with them. I don't want to call anybody else. Like, so if you're not doing those things, I think that's why we started to just, not just for the sake of Ted and Davis want to get some things off their plate so that we can go do some other, cool stuff for the company. But like, for me, it's more so about beating our competition in that area because we certainly have other people. The larger franchise companies are doing all of this stuff, and that's who we're chasing and trying to compete with. We're not trying to compete with the bottom tier guys that are just pickup truck and trailer. No offense to them, it's just that's where our mindset is. That's where our revenue is. That's where how we built our company here in Charlotte. So anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think the automation is it would be a good exercise for us as well, but it'd be a great exercise, I think, for anyone in the home service space to really analyze what are those tasks that you're performing and what are things that you can't automate. I think if you really sit and add up all the things that you do manually that could be automated today, it would be astonishing. There are some things that I still question, like, should you do that? Like social media. There are tools right now that you can completely put on autopilot, but I've looked into those and I don't see the level of personalization to your earlier point that you can implement the same way. Like it still sounds corny. It still sounds a little bit like it's written by bots. There's a personal tone you can put in it when it's your business and you understand the context behind what you're posting. Maybe it's the employee's name that you use in the video or the customer's name that automated program cannot do. So by no means am I saying you should automate every single thing in your business. I think there are aspects that do need to stay pure where you do want that human touch, at least for now. Is the day coming where all that could be solved? Probably. As scary and in some ways as even disappointing as that is, because I think it's bad to completely take away all the human touch, the human intervention on these things. But yeah, I think it'd be a great exercise to just sit down and go, what are all the, like, scope out the day. What are all the things where you're spending your time and what of those things can you automate, whether it's through Go High Level or otherwise, to remove yourself from it so you can be much more 20,000 feet versus 20 feet.
Well, I think it's important to note, last thing I'll say, it's important to note around automations. People think, or at least I think, computers, algorithms, things that aren't humans, which it is what it is. But those automations also, I think you mentioned it earlier, they also have automations that set up tasks that remind humans to go do X, Y, Z. You know, it's like that's a big part of it. Like you can set up all the sequences in the world, but part of the sequence might be reminding Davis after 5 emails and 7 texts that, hey, this customer hasn't replied, or they have, and here's where the conversation has gone. Now the ball's in your court, Mr. Human, to go take it over. Especially in the sales world, like you've gotten them a price, they have questions, you've talked through like, yeah, we're insured, we can be there same day, next day, and now somebody has a question of like, hey, if I, whatever it is, like, hey, I've got a hard deadline Friday at 5, I need to book the job for Friday at noon. Can you guys absolutely get it done? Like, so that type of conversation maybe gets triggered, just as an example, for like, all right, here's a human needs to step in and do this. So just as a note, but nonetheless, good stuff.